Fancy seeing you here. Welcome back to No Way! Tell Me Everything. I'm your host, Jess. We got a mini episode in the works, and I swear today, just the tip is only going to be the tip. It's going to be just the tip because we got stuff to talk about. There's so much going on. I cannot ramble incessantly because I got a whole other thing to talk about. So let's get into it. I am going to be working on my watercolor that I started in the last mini episode. While we chit chat, I have this beautiful piece of angel aura light. After my chat with Mike, I actually started asking the angels to work with me more. And if you listen to the episode, you know that I haven't really categorized the types of beings that I work with. I just kind of know who they are based on their energy. I don't really mind the labels, but I had a fun little experience with the angels because today is Sunday. And on Wednesday, I asked the angels, I said, I think I've probably already been working with you, actually. But I would like to work more with you. I have a closer relationship. So if you want that too, will you show me a sign? So I said, what do you want to show me? And they said, pickle person. And I went, okay, sure. Pickle person. Okay. Sounds good. But I already took steps to start working more with the angels. And I specifically started referring to them as angels. I have like a smidgen of religious trauma. So I think that partly goes into why I have previously kind of been resistant to calling them angels. But I started calling them angels. I felt like it's important if I'm asking to work specifically with angels that I call them, what people generally are calling them. I got the information from them that they really don't care what we call them, but they just want to work with us. They're always here. Anywho, my husband, my sweet, sweet man, decided to surprise me with a trip to Gdansk in Poland. The flight was pretty turbulent. So I was praying to the angels. I was saying, please get us there smoothly and safely. And I had this urge to open up this app on my phone. If you have anxiety, shout out to this game called Pixelogic. It's a little bit like Minesweeper, but you're making a picture with these kind of squares. And so when you open it up, you don't know what the picture is. You just have to start, using math. The reason I use it for anxiety and the reason I recommend it is because it forces you to use your brain a lot, which is very distracting and good when you have anxiety. So I started doing this game and it did help. It helped with the anxiety. And then I actually realized that I was doing a feather puzzle. So that was, a first little fun sign. We were in Poland, right? So Polish breakfast at the hotel was great for me because I thought it was fun. They said pickle person because I myself am a pickle person. I love pickles so much. So they had 50 types of pickles. So I had my whole plate. My whole plate was like an egg and 6 different types of pickles. And so my husband looked at me and I just had this foreshadowing. I said, he's going to say something about a pickle person. I know it already. So then he looks at my plate and he goes, geez, Pickle Rick. And I was like, that's my sign. That was it. I got it. Because if you don't know Rick and Morty, I think I actually have a figurine somewhere of it. Pickle Rick is the most iconic character for me in Rick and Morty. I have 2 Pickle Rick sleeping bags. I have a Pickle Rick character that you push on it and it goes, I'm Pickle Rick. It's Rick, the scientist, who's a pickle. And then a whole bunch of shenanigans happens and he steals rat body parts and plugs them into his pickle and makes a pickle person. So that's a pickle person. So I saw that sign coming and I was like, there it is. I got it. They do want to work with me. I mean, I already knew it. I was already working towards it, but I love the confirmation. And then as we were walking around, we went to a bookstore. And in the bookstore, they had a little book that was it's like an intro to angels or something. And I just felt like that was another sign I should get this book. And I probably won't agree with everything in it, but there's probably some good information in there. And I had this thought as I bought the book, I bet you I'm going to see one of those pickles in a pouch at some point during this trip, though, because they have a pickle person on them. And they're not very common over here. I think they're made in the US. They're kind of over here once in a while. But I was like, I bet I'm just going to, I know I'm going to see one. I had that foreshadowing again. Take my book down to the checkout. And you know how they do that lovely marketing thing where they have like a ton of little stuff you can buy at the checkout. They had a mother effin' Van Houten pickle pouch, the sour sis pickle person, and it cost $9.99. So could not have been more obvious. I don't even know how I got on that topic, but I think I was supposed to talk to you about it. Without further ado, so I don't keep doing this rambling, I'm going to put the crystals back and we're going to talk about eclipse season, because just the tip, this segment, just the tip, is going to be about eclipse season. Eclipse season is coming up. I think the first eclipse we have is September 7th. Don't quote me on that. And then I think there's one on September 22nd as well. So we have I believe it's 2 eclipse seasons every year. We have one in the fall and we have one in the spring. And they kind of mirror each other in different ways. But eclipse season, right now online, it's exhausting how it's very much being sensationalized as the super scary thing. And like, oh my God, eclipse season's already starting and we're in the shadow period of eclipse season. And I fully believe, like many things in life, it is what you make it, man. Like, I've been through eclipse seasons where I fought tooth and nail to not learn my lessons, to not shed what needed to be shed, to not let go of things. And yeah, it was hard. It sucked. But that's what eclipse season asks of us. It asks us to re-examine things in our life that are not serving us, that are not working, that need to let go. And that can be patterns. It can be people. It could be habits. It could be cleaning your house. It could be getting rid of stuff you own that's just clutter, that's energetically sticking with you. When we keep things around us from a different period of our lives or from a different version of ourselves, you are keeping energy around that's keeping you stuck in a way or another. So, for example, if your ex keeps coming up and then you go to clean your room out and you realize that you have a jewelry box that they gave you, you might want to get rid of that. That's holding on to a piece of a past that you don't want to live anymore. So it's kind of stuff like that. Also, like, people might come back into your life that you thought were gone. And it's like a little check of like, did you fully move on? Did you learn your lesson? Are you gonna say no to this person? I will say nothing is ever black and white, but if a person that you've wiped from your life comes back, tries to worm their way back into your life in some way during eclipse season, that's a huge red flag for me of like, I need to stand in my worth here. Or is there something that I'm still holding on to? Am I not fully over this situation? There's something here, because much like retrogrades, during eclipse season, it's all about making sure that you are aligning with where you need to be. Same thing with like triggers. People or things might trigger you in a certain way during eclipse season. And really what it is again, how are you going to handle this? Did you do some healing work? Is this affecting you less? Are you going to go back to your old ways of handling this trigger, or are you going to stand in this new way of being? So how do we deal with it during eclipse season? Again, deep breaths. Take some deep breaths. Try to not react to things. When things happen that trigger you or that make you upset, try to keep in your mind, shit, it's eclipse season. I bet there's something here. Let me take a deep breath and reflect for a minute and not react right away. Journaling is really helpful during eclipse season. I do so much journaling here. I don't know if you will have the same feelings as me, but I feel very drawn to journal during this time of the year. I feel very drawn to go inside, to introspect. So I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of guided meditations. I guide myself at this point, but there are some really lovely internal, child healing or internal connection or energy clearing meditations that you can find on Spotify or other places where you find your meditations. But I do a lot of that work. Like, I will literally pretty much daily, I do it daily anyway, but during eclipse season, I will really focus on doing a meditation or breath work or anything that's going to anchor me into myself and to do that check-in. And then I'll journal afterwards, whatever comes up. Or throughout the day, when I notice these kind of patterns or annoying things happening, like you might have a day where you forget your keys, and then you go to get your keys, you spill your coffee on your shirt, you got to go change your shirt, and then you get out of the door and there's a car accident, and just all these little things. Instead of reacting, try to deep breathe and just chill. Because what's going to happen during eclipse season, if you allow yourself that internal time to reflect and to let go and to shed what's no longer working for you, react from a much more centered, grounded place that's in your new timeline, if you will. I'm going to use all these buzzwords that people are using right now because I'm sure you've heard of them, but basically like a more chilled out, glowed up version of you. Let's call that's your new timeline. If you're reacting from those kind of characters like UWNJD, what would new Jess do? Or insert your name here, right? Do that. Don't react from the unhealed version or the old timeline version, or the she's all that before version. You want to react from this glowed up version of yourself. That's the whole point of eclipse season. And it's going to be tough for you if you don't let the energy pass through, if you don't flow with the energy, if you try to grab on, not let go of what's trying to be released, not learn your lessons, not reflect, try to keep doing things the way you've always done them that's not good for you. Yeah, it's going to suck. So if during this period you feel like everything sucks, maybe take a beat and be like, shit, I think I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Because also, we have this fall eclipse season. Then you're going to go through this introspective winter period where everything's, down in the ground. We're meant to level up for spring. When you go through that next eclipse season, whatever you didn't let go of, learn from, move past, it's just going to keep coming up again in different ways. So that is just the tip. I actually stuck to it this time. Pretty proud of myself for that one. But yeah, buckle in, kids, because it's coming up. But like I said, honestly, I like eclipse season. I think it's a great introspective time. It's a huge time of growth for me because I do pay attention and I do introspect and I look at the lessons that I'm getting and I grow. I get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. When you do those things, it's actually great because you're going to up level so quickly. Like this shit's coming at you light speed. It's such a great time to learn and grow and shed right now. If you work with that energy, you will be a new version of yourself. 2 cents on that one. All right, let's talk about the main thing I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about how do you co-create with the universe. So quick word here on what co-creation is. I didn't come up with this word. It's well used. I prefer this word to the other more widely used one, which is manifestation. I think manifestation in itself is not a bad word, but it's so saturated and polluted by a lot of really scammy people who don't know what they're talking about. They don't work with energy. Manifestation is energy work at its core. It's not just vision boards and I want this, give it to me. And there are a lot of people who sell these quick fix situations. And manifestation, my friends, it is not a quick thing. It's a lot of work and it's complicated. So people who are telling you this is what you need to do to manifest, and if you just do this one thing and you really want it, you'll get it. They're lying. They're lying. And of course they have situations where that happens, where you actually do get what you want. But the true co-creation, when we're talking about co-creating your life, there's a lot more to it. So I wanted to speak to you about it. The best thing about co-creation is you're doing it with the universe. You're doing it with your guides. You're doing it with your higher self. It's like a whole team. It's like having a whole company behind making you successful and living your most authentic life. So let's talk about it. All right. So the first thing with co-creation, you got to get really clear on what you want and why you want it. Because it's not about the actual thing. A lot of times it's about the feeling or the experience or the life that the, quote unquote thing is going to bring with you. What are the possibilities and this impact that this thing is going to ripple out for yourself and the collective? Because the important thing to know about co-creation as well is when it is truly aligned to your soul purpose, to your higher path, it is also aligned with the collective. Because as I spoke about previously, we come here to grow and expand. And in doing that, we benefit the collective. So anything that we co-create with the universe is going to benefit the collective as long as it's aligned with our authentic wants and needs. And it's not selfish to want things for yourself when they are authentic to what you want and need to create. Because like I said, those things will always also benefit the collective in some way, whether you can see it or not, but it has a ripple effect. But in order to do that, you have to get really clear on what it is you want. So for an example, if you say, I want a really big house. That is an ego-based want. It is not a soul-based want. And what we want to find is the soul-based wants and needs. Because you need to dig into why you want a big house. First of all, do you actually want a big house? Do you actually? That's a lot of stuff you got to clean and take care of. Higher heating costs, higher air conditioning costs if you have air conditioning, electricity. Those are like all the practical things, right? So that's like a very practical question. Do you actually want it? But when you dig deeper into it, if you say, yeah, I actually want a bigger house, and then you dig into why you actually want a bigger house, you may very well find it has nothing to do with the house. It's not the house you want. It's the stability that you see when you think of a big house, or it's the security. So if you're able to afford a big house like that, it means that you have money, which makes you feel secure and safe. And you can't do the work that you need to do unless you feel those things. So that's why you need a big house, right? So you need to get to the base of why do you want these kind of things? Because what you'll probably find is there's a lot of different routes to get there. Maybe you don't actually need the big house. Maybe you just need a monthly income to make you feel safe. Or, as I've found out with my money issues, maybe you don't need any of that. Maybe you need to release the scarcity mindset that you have, or release this feeling that you have to be 100% self-sufficient to be safe. So sometimes it's also pointing us to the limiting blocks that we need to work on as we do the work to uncover what we authentically want out of life. And part of that is understanding your authentic values. So authentic values are not things like, I believe in fairness. I believe that every child should have food to eat and clean water. Those are very noble things to want, and I'm with you on them for sure. But that's not an authentic value. An authentic value would be something like 100% authentic creative expression. Like, I need to be able to authentically express myself in whatever way, shape, or form that is, or I'm not happy. Because then you can look at the things that you're trying to call in and say, this doesn't align with that because it is going to censor me. So if it's going to censor me, it's not aligned with my need for 100% creative expression. Therefore, it is not authentic to me. And this is not an opportunity that I want to go with, because Spirit will put a lot of different opportunities in front of you. But what you'll find is that some of them are just not aligned with you. And you need to be able to clear on that, because you're helping the universe. It's like narrowing down the path, right? But first, they're going to be giving you a lot of opportunities. Whatever you say yes to is a signal of, okay, yes, I want to go in this direction. So in order to make sure you actually end up being happy when you co-create your life, you got to make sure that you're on track with what you actually value. Maybe, if we go back to this, every child should have food and clean water, whatever, maybe that's part of your purpose. So that could be something like, I want to contribute to that cause as part of my creative expression, right? So it's like an umbrella term that can fit different stuff in it, and you might want to bucket out what fits in what section. Maybe you want freedom. Freedom's a big one for me. Freedom is a lot of things for me. Freedom is authentic expression. Freedom is ability to move if I want to. Freedom is not being tied down to a specific schedule so I can work with my energy as it works. Like, it can be a bucket situation. So get clear on what you want and why you want it. I mentioned ego versus soul-based. So make sure, is it ego-based or soul-based? Ego-based things normally have to do with validation. So it ties back to like a need for love, or a fear of not being accepted or not being belonging. And it usually comes from low self-worth. So ego-based things come from how you want others to perceive you. They're not things that authentically make you happy. Think about something expensive that you bought that was really important to you, and maybe you manifested it and you're like, I'm going to buy this designer purse. And once I have this designer purse, I'm going to feel really good. It's going to make me feel a lot better. I'm going to feel like I belong more. I'm going to be more accepted in whatever group I want to be in, right? And then you get the designer purse and it's like, it's okay. And then you stop wearing it, or it doesn't make you feel how you thought it make you feel. It's because it was ego-based. It was for validation or for how others would look at you. It didn't actually have anything to do with your actual wants and needs on a soul-based level. Soul-based comes from a knowing that whatever it is you want to co-create, that's part of your path. It's part of your purpose and your impact. If you have a want or a need and you're working towards it and it's just not working, everything is hard, Nothing is flowing. It's probably because it's not on your soul path. It's not aligned with you. So it's really hard. And it could be that it's ego-based. And you could get there. I've seen people with successful businesses, for example, who've argued with me on this point a lot, that I tell my students all the time, if you're constantly running into obstacles, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, if it's draining your energy and nothing is working even though it should be, you need to look at why that is. Because a lot of times it's because you're trying to take someone else's path. It's not authentic to yours. Yours could be adjacent to it, could still be the same kind of industry, it could still be the same kind of thing, but the way you're going about it is not authentic to you. And that's why it's not working. And there are a lot of people who will say, I built my 6-figure business by doing this and it was hard work and whatever else. And it's like, okay, but then that was probably aligned with you. What works for one person might not work for you. And if it's not working for you, but it should be, but you hate it, or you feel tired every single time you do it, it's just because it's not for you, or it's not for you in that way, right? Make sure you do the work to know if it's ego or soul-based. I hold the belief that everyone who chooses to come to Earth, who is awakened, and if you're listening to my podcast or you resonate with anything I say, I 100% believe that you came here wanting to be an awake soul. I think there's definitely people who came here that had different expansive things for their souls that they wanted that had nothing to do with being awake. And they're not working towards a collective good consciously. Like I said, if they are somehow aligning with their soul path and they're learning their lessons they're supposed to, that will do something for the collective. Sometimes it's not always a good thing. Sometimes we have to learn lessons and people will deliver us those lessons. So like if you have a parent who's really difficult and you're here to be a cycle breaker, that person's soul path is not one of enlightenment and expansion necessarily. They have other lessons to learn, and one of those things might be being a bad parent because you need to break that cycle and they have to be that for you. Their soul might not necessarily love doing that job, but that's what they signed up for. That was a little bit of a roundabout thing. Let's get back to the main point. Most people that come here, it's for some sort of lesson or soul expansion. And if you're an awake soul especially, you're definitely not here just for yourself. You're here for also bettering the collective. So I already spoke about that a little bit before, but it really helps me to, once I've figured out my authentic wants and needs, understand how is this also hopefully going to benefit the collective. And when I work to co-create my life, I always say something along the lines of, for my highest good and the highest good of the collective. I don't generally try to co-create or manifest things that don't somehow also relate to helping someone else. And that's maybe part of my soul path. So if this doesn't resonate with you, that's totally fine. But I do think that it helps me to find a bit more purpose in what I'm trying to co-create, to remember for myself that what I'm doing is hopefully also for the highest good of anyone who's meant to work with me or hear what I have to say. So you can have these individual goals. It's not, like I said, it's not selfish. Get on with your bad self if you want to do it. Do what makes you happy. Follow that joy. But also keep in mind that someone else's individual goals will probably also be benefiting you in some way. So it's kind of a very complicated chessboard that the universe is working with. I just also want to quickly go back to something around the validation aspect of it. Like I mentioned, validation comes from a fear of safety, belonging, and a want and need for love, which is at the core for all of us of what we want out of this life. But validation is very much based on the outcome of something, your expectation and the outcome of how you want something to turn out. And it's very low vibrational, those kind of things. And that's exactly why, like in the example that I gave, if you were calling in some sort of luxury item simply because you thought that it would make you belong or feel better or finally have that, energy that you're hoping to embody, if you get that thing that you're calling in, it's probably not going to make you feel that way. And also I feel that the universe, when it does deliver us those validation or ego-based wants, it is to prove to us or to show us that this is not what we want. So it comes in as a lesson. So part of co-creation is also letting go of the outcome and the expectation. So when you're operating from this ego-based, validation-based way of co-creating, that is not letting go. It's not letting go. It's not surrendering. You're not allowing your mind to stay open to the possibility of how things could come in or how they could be created, how they could come to life. And when you don't let go, you're not working with the full power of the universe. You're not trusting that the universe is going to deliver. And that is a crucial point to co-creation. You have to do your part, do that next right step, be clear about where you're going and what you're doing. But you have to let go. You have to let the universe do its part. You have to let it work. If you don't let it work, it's going to be it's just right back to the beginning. You're manifesting with both hands behind your back. The universe has infinitely more power than we ever could in getting where we're going. And it knows how to get us there in the most amazing ways that we could never see coming or imagine for ourselves. And you have to let it do that work. So when you're operating from an outcome, validation, ego-based mindset, it's going to continue to be really, really difficult for you to manifest or to co-create. You have to be assured that the universe is going to do this and they're going to deliver it. And if you can't be assured, if you can't let go and trust that the universe is going to do it, maybe go back to look at, do I actually want this thing? Do I actually, from a soul level, believe that this is right for me or want this? Because sometimes I've found that I think I want something, but I don't actually want it. Not at a soul level, at least. It's not actually for my higher purpose. It's not going to help the collective at all. Or it's not on my soul path. So maybe an old version of myself or a part of my consciousness thinks this is what I should want. So I try to co-create this, but my subconscious doesn't believe in it. Or my higher self knows that it's not right for me. And that's where you'll see things like self-sabotaging, not feeling confident in letting go and surrendering, not knowing even the next clear step. It's all these different ways that you're telling yourself that this is not right for you. So you have to learn to listen to that part of yourself. And I also mentioned, like with the money thing, that you might need to release blocks. So when you start co-creating something with the universe, that's also, talking back to the eclipse thing. This is where the universe is going to start letting us know where there are subconscious patterns of belief, where there are energetic blocks that are keeping us from co-creating and calling in whatever it is that we're trying to bring into our lives. So there may be some limiting blocks that you need to release. So let's say, for example, you're trying to manifest success. You have a business, you're trying to manifest that it's successful. And your goal is to impact people through making their lives better, right? That's what you go in with. But maybe you don't actually believe that you're good enough. Or maybe you don't maybe you don't believe that you deserve success because you have low self-worth. Or, growing up, you were repeated this all the time and you've made a self-concept around not being deserving. Or maybe success to you is scary because you think if you're successful, the people around you will be jealous of you and therefore not like you because you've seen them talking about other people in the same way. There can be all these kind of different blocks, but you might notice them coming up, right? Or maybe your idea of success is ego-based and not soul-based. So maybe you base success off of how much money you make, which is ego-based, and it's conditioning because that's how society says we deem success. Someone's success is how high they climb, how much money they make. But maybe the soul-based success is that you have a beautiful community of people who are supportive of each other, want the best for each other, and have this lovely, loving sense of belonging. If that's your success, money doesn't matter. So you have to be really clear about these kind of things, but also you have to remove those blocks because then you'll be able to uncover them. Until you remove the block around success is money, you're not going to be able to define what success actually means for you at a subconscious level as well. So if you don't reprogram those beliefs, your subconscious will sabotage you. You will always carry doubt, even if you push through. So even if you manage to get success through very practical standpoints, again, it will be harder because you're not co-creating, you're pushing, and you'll perform for validation, for example, versus aligning to your highest authentic expression, which aligns to your purpose for the collective as well. And your vibration's not going to match what you're trying to do. It's literally just going to be like the hardest thing you've ever done, even if you get success. It was hard-won success. And again, maybe based off of a success metric that's not actually, for you. But if you align to this higher outcome and you remove the blocks. Success for you means that you maybe help those people who are aligned to your authentic expression. And it's really easy. You do it with absolute ease and you build the life in the way that you want to build your life. But you got to remove those limiting blocks before you'll ever be able to do that. And I mentioned that like you might be pushing a lot and it's really hard. The last thing you want to do is push because again, you're signaling to the universe that you don't trust them. You're not waiting for the aligned opportunities that you can feel are aligned because you're connected to the universe and you're trusting in it. So if things are really hard, I always tell people like if you're really struggling, you're having a really hard time and things just don't feel like they're working despite what you're doing, just take a break. It doesn't have to be a quit. You don't have to quit, but you might need to take a break, do some meditations, journal, rest, do things that bring you joy, but don't push. Because when you're pushing, you're in your masculine energy, which is go, go, go. And it's a great energy to be in when you have to get stuff done. But your feminine energy is where you receive the guidance. So if you're pushing and pushing and pushing all the time and you're not resting and stuff isn't working and you don't listen to yourself to rest, you're going to be missing these crucial steps or alignments that the universe wants to give you as it co-creates with you. Another thing that thankfully is being talked a lot more about in manifestation circles because it's a really important piece of the puzzle. And as a somatic practitioner, extremely important to everything that I do, is you're gonna have to regulate your nervous system. Our nervous system is such a behemoth of how we express ourselves, show up in the world, what we're capable of doing, how we can hold things that we're trying to call in. All of these things live in our nervous system. If you don't regulate it, if you're constantly in a state of stress, you haven't released trauma, you have a lot of emotional blockages, you have a lot of beliefs that are controlling your nervous system, the things that you're calling in are going to feel like threats. So you're either going to subconsciously self-sabotage because you don't feel safe, or you're not able to hold them. I mean, how many times have you heard about people who, let's talk about like the lottery. Okay, the lottery just came to me. People win the lottery because they want money, right? So they're manifesting, I'm going to win the lottery, I'm going to get all this money and everything's going to be better. But they don't do the work behind feeling safe to have that much money. So then they win money and everything in their life goes to absolute shit. That's an example, probably extreme one, but that's an example of why you need to do the nervous system work at the same time. You cannot co-create with the universe things that you do not feel are safe to hold. So if you don't think something is possible for you, or something like money might feel scary to you. I worked through that. I grew up lower income, paycheck to paycheck. The idea of having money is scary. So I would constantly, like my mom used to say, you have a hole in your pocket. I couldn't spend my money fast enough. Having money felt terrifying. It felt like a responsibility, and I knew nothing about handling money. I knew absolutely nothing about it. I didn't have a bank account when I married my husband and I moved to Denmark for 10 years. I just used his credit card. That is the level of money fear that I have had to work through. So if you have these kind of things where you don't think it's possible, you think it's scary, you're going to sabotage whatever you're consciously trying to create subconsciously. And it lives a lot in your nervous system because of these old beliefs and ways that you're brought up and conditioning and trauma and all this other stuff, right? Our nervous system is our huge subconscious brain, really. And it's constantly trying to protect us. But as we've spoken about before, can go against us a lot of times. And so you'll self-sabotage by, there's so many ways to do it, but like, let's say procrastination is a great one. Like if there's something that you want to work towards and you consciously want to do this thing, but you are constantly finding reasons why you don't have time, or you have to keep learning. You're never done learning because you got to keep learning. It's not ready. These are all ways that you're procrastinating actually taking the steps. And it's probably because subconsciously and in your nervous system, you don't feel like you can actually do this. So it's a safety mechanism, but yeah, it's going to keep you back. Also, risky behaviors, going out and drinking the night before a huge presentation, getting wasted, staying out all night so you're tired, those kind of things. Now, I also feel like you need to focus on the passion and joy. I've spoken about this in the last episode I did, but when you follow your passion, when you follow the things that spark joy, you're going to get whatever you're trying to work through. You're going to get more information. Whenever I look at the people who are super happy and super successful in what they do, it's because they followed something that sparked joy in them. They followed a passion that already lived inside of them. And then they're able to live in that feminine energy more. So they're receiving constantly guidance. They're co-creating with ease because it's something that they really enjoy. It's not something that they feel they have to do. It's something that they're super passionate about and really, really enjoy doing. If you've ever heard people talk about once money becomes attached to something, it's no longer enjoyable for them, that's a misalignment between your validation, the outcome, and success criteria. Because if you love baking cakes and you think I should have a business where I bake cakes because it makes me really happy, and then as soon as you start doing it, everything gets stressful, everything's no longer enjoyable, and you hate it, look at what you're basing your success criteria and why you're doing it. Because if you're doing it to get more recognition or just to make money, then you're probably misaligned with your values. Because following your passion, following your joy, that shouldn't be stressful or unenjoyable when you attach money to it. So if you've ever said that or heard someone say that, that's an immediate red flag for me that something is misaligned. So don't be afraid to follow your joy and follow the things that you're passionate about, because that's where success does lie. That's where your happiness lies. Don't let it deter you if there's some fears there. Just work through them. And, that's what all these things are helping you to do. Because if you're thinking about something that you want to call in, that you want to co-create, and you're like, oh, I don't know if it's going to be successful. I don't know if those things exist in your mind because they're already multidimensionally. There's a version of you with that life. There's a version of you that's created. If those things are coming in for you from a soul level and they're aligned, they already exist. They're already there. It's just like if you imagine that, like, there's trains on all these different tracks, right? You're on one track and you want to get over to this other track where there's this thing that you're the track already exists. All you got to do is flip that little switch thing that makes the train go to the other tracks, right? So if you're thinking about doing something, it means it's already a possibility. You have to get the right belief system in place. You have to get the right frequency. You have to take those steps one after the other to get there. But if you're co-creating with the universe from an authentic place, it's already possible for you. And the other thing is, throw out what you think you know about doing something. Social media is a great example. There's so many people telling you how to be successful on social media. When you talk to the people who find success on social media, a lot of them will tell you they have no clue why. They don't know what happened. Something just blew up one day. And I think it lies in the fact that, like, when it's time, when you're being authentic, when everything is aligned, those things will work for you. So yes, it's good to have a knowledge of how things work and how you need to do things. There are some very practical things like taxes, right? You have to know how those things work. But if you get an idea or an inspiration to do something differently, throw out the rule book. Have fun. Take risks. Follow the joy. See what happens. Keep focusing on the present. Don't think so far in the future. Just think about what you want to create, what you want to express, what you want to do. Stay in that now headspace. You can start with what you know. You can start with what you learn. You don't have to constantly keep learning until you're ready, because if you're self-sabotaging, that time will never come. But follow your intuition, follow the signs, follow synchronicities. If something doesn't feel right, if it feels hard, if it doesn't feel like something you want to do, then just don't do it. You don't have to do those things most of the time. A lot of times we have this tendency, because of anxiety and everything we've been told, of like the strategic plan way out in the future, but so much can constantly change there. So it's a good idea to know where you want to go, have an idea of where you want to go, but don't focus so far in the future that you forget to be in the now. Just focus on the next right step. Keep the goal in mind, and keep in mind also that the goal might change. I'm literally constantly changing what I'm doing based on how it feels for me, how it's working, how it's resonating with people. I have an ultimate goal of what I want to do and how I want to feel and how I want my life to be. But how I get there, I change constantly. And of course, pay attention to the signs and synchronicities. If you meet someone randomly and there's something interesting, shoot your shot, because you're probably meant to do that, or you're meant to learn something from this person. Chance meetings aren't chance meetings. They're there for a reason. Same thing with opportunities. Get good at listening to what the universe is telling you. Those subtle signals, those signs, pay attention, be aware. And of course, as always, use your discernment. If it feels like it's something for you, it probably is. If it doesn't, give it a miss. Use your discernment on everything. But don't let things pass you by because you're scared. So in a nutshell, and it's not a nutshell, it is 50-mile long track, probably in circles. It's Daytona. Co-creation is the best way that you can build the life of your dreams because you're working with the universe who has infinite resources, possibilities, help. You are so incredibly supported by your spirit team. They want to work with you. They want you to live your soul-aligned, happy life. That is literally what they're here for, helping us with. But they want to work with you. And if you don't trust the universe and you don't trust yourself and you try to work just on your own, I'm not saying you won't get there, but I am saying it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a lot less enjoyable, and I will stand on this hill forever. Life is meant to be fun, meant to be enjoyed, meant to be magical. We have hard times. We have difficult times. There's hard work we have to put into things, but the reward is great, and you don't want to work against yourself. I won't say we always, but we tend to work against ourselves when we don't need to do that. If you're able to get help, why would you not? All right, let's end with a card for today, please. La, 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 la. While I'm shuffling and waiting for the card to come out, head over to the website, sign up for the free main character energy activation masterclass that I'm doing in the end of September. We're going to do some really great exercises in there. I'll tell you more about the course that I'm doing in October, which is, honestly, it's just going to make you brave. It's going to make you confident. It's going to help you take those next steps. There's so much that goes into it. I honestly cannot describe to you in any Instagram post, TikTok reel, ending segment of my podcast, the amount of work that I've put into this program with my guides and how you're going to work with your guides and I'm going to work with you to do a bunch of different types of somatic healing, energy work, intuitive work, personal growth, and internal work. It's going to be really, really great. You're going to feel great after. You're going to feel brave. You're going to feel ready to step into that very confident new version of yourself, building whatever your dream life looks like. But make sure you sign up for the masterclass. It's free. If you can't attend the actual live class, you will get the replay. And there's also going to be an exclusive offer in there. All right, today we got Lion Spirit. Look at my pretty nails if you're on YouTube or a TikTok clip. Lion Spirit, be generous of spirit. Okay, so what I'm getting from this card is be brave, be generous of spirit. When you take these steps towards the future that you want, when you align, when you ask for help, when you give help, you are not only changing the course of your life, you're changing the course of someone else's life because everything is so connected. Everything is part of one big game board. We're all working together constantly for a future that we want to create for ourselves and for others. And in order to do that, you have to be very generous of your spirit. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be open. You have to trust. All of these things are hard for us to do because we've all been hurt. We've all been in situations where we've been taken advantage of. But the true strength lies in having those things happen and still being able to be generous of spirit, to be brave, to continue to do the things that make you happy, to live life on your own terms, to continue to be a good soul and a good person. That's what it means to be generous of spirit. It means that you don't let the things that have happened to you define you. You know that who you are cannot be shaken, cannot be controlled, cannot be changed, and cannot be diminished by what others would do to you. The true measure of who you are is how you live and how you continue to live authentically and boldly and bravely as yourself. I keep getting the word brave, and the lion was on there. I keep getting the word brave. The true measure of your spirit is being brave, is not being afraid to continue to live your life authentically and in service to spirit and with spirit, and doing the work for yourself and passing that on will change the whole outcome, how you see it, your perspective. Everything will start to change as you live openly. As you live openly, as you give openly, authentically. And don't be afraid to take that next step. Keep an open mind and see what happens. Because we also are so scared to let go and to take the steps, because what if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't happen? What if it does? What if you let go and instead of falling apart, it all falls into place? What if you take that next step and it leads you to something magical that you never ever would have imagined, but you'll never know until you're brave enough to do that just next little thing. Okay, thank you everyone for being here today. Hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we have an episode with Morgan from Oops, I'm Evolving, where we're going to talk about literally everything. We just shot the shit for like an hour. I have to cut that one down too. I think it's like an hour and a half, but I hope you will attend. Remember to rate, like, share, comment the podcast, follow me on the socials, help a sister out. I love you all. Have a fantastic freaking weekend.